Go ahead and make yourselves comfortable because we're about to have a serious talk about one of the most controversial topics in astrology, and some of you may not like what I have to say. Hola my beautiful lotus flowers, welcome back or welcome to my channel. If you're into nerding out on everything astrology, spirituality, and self-transformation, this is a community for you. Yes, you read the title correctly, you read the thumbnail correctly. Today, we are discussing the highly debated topic of cusps in astrology and whether they are actually a real thing. Whether we should actually consider cusps when people are born. I have seen many arguments, I've seen many people with very strong standpoints on this, thinking that cusps are absolute nonsense and we should just drop the topic completely. So I just want to preface this video by saying that if you didn't come here with an open mind to learn about the possibilities of why or why not cusps are real or why they are nonsense, then go ahead and click out of this video because we only welcome open minds here, and this is all for educational purposes. This is not anything like, I don't think I'm the know-it-all of astrology. I don't think anybody knows everything in the subject that they study. It's impossible. We'll start off by talking about what exactly cusps are in astrology, so that way any of you watching who aren't familiar with them can better understand what this video is about overall. Then we'll finish the video by talking about whether cusps are real or whether they're nonsense and why or why not. First and foremost, what exactly are cusps in astrology? Technically speaking, a cusp in astrology is the imaginary line that separates each zodiac constellation or house from one another. And I'll insert a sample of a birth chart here so you can see for yourself. But cusp zodiac signs are basically when people were born during the time that the sun was transitioning from one sign to the other, or crossing that imaginary line. For example, if you were born on February 19th, that's technically the day we consider to be the first day of Pisces season. But the sun may not actually enter Pisces until 8 p.m. that evening. So if someone is born on February 19th before 8 p.m., they would be considered to be on the Aquarius Pisces cusp, and it is believed that someone born between two signs may carry traits of both. However, there are many astrologers that believe that your sun sign is definite no matter how close to the cusp you were born, while there's other astrologers that strongly believe in cusp and think that you should take into consideration the traits of both signs of the cusp they were born on. So now that brings us to the question that everybody wants to know. Are cusps actually real or are they complete nonsense? After I state my own personal answer to this, be sure that you're staying and watching my reasoning behind it. Even if you don't agree with my answer, you may still learn something from my reasoning. Like I said, open mind, be open to education, be open to learning new perspectives. That is how you improve your life. So with that being said, my answer in short is that yes, absolutely, cusps are real and they are something we should take into consideration when studying astrology. And now I'm about to explain to you why I think that. First off, astrology is not a fixed study. As I said, the cusps are simply imaginary lines used as markers to help indicate where one sign ends and another begins as the planets make their orbit through the signs. But these are not definite positions in the cosmos. These lines or cusps are not actual physical borders that exist in the sky to physically separate each sign and each house. Treating astrology as if it is a black and white study that leaves no room for gray area is a limiting mindset to have. Although some would argue that astrology is not a scientific study in any way, it is. And one thing about science is that it attempts to examine and understand the natural order and the divine through various theories and observations. But these theories and observations are constantly evolving as we make new discoveries. There must always be room for nuance and open-mindedness. The same goes for the study of astrology, just like any other study. It's called a study for a reason. It's theoretic for a reason. There are many theoretic parts of astrology and science as a whole. Nothing in this life is absolutely straightforward with one answer, with one straight line. The same goes for the study of astrology. Trying to create absolute straightforward answers that create a definite line between what is and what isn't is just a limiting mindset to have that only limits your ability to understand yourself deeper through the study of astrology. Reason number 2, degrees matter. The fact that astrology is not absolute is proven in the importance of using degrees in various parts of the birth chart. The degrees are how we measure the exact position of celestial bodies in areas of the birth chart, as well as the distance between each sign and the houses. A standard tropical birth chart uses a space of approximately 30 degrees to separate each zodiac sign. For example, this is most commonly seen when determining the influence of certain planets in people's birth charts. Say that I have my first house cusp, aka the ascendant/rising sign, in Aries, but I also have another planet that's within 2 degrees of my ascendant line. This is very important because whatever planet is so close to your ascendant will heavily influence the way you display your ascendant sign. But if the planet was 3 or more degrees away from the ascendant line, it loses its importance and doesn't play a huge role anymore. This is also how aspects are measured in astrology as well. Aspects are the different angles in which planets interact with each other in the birth chart, and although there are usually a lot of aspects happening in our natal charts, only the ones that create orbs of 3 degrees or less are considered the most influential. And I'm not going to further explain orbs here because this video isn't about aspects, but the point is that degrees play a major role in understanding our chart. Before we continue, be sure that you like, subscribe, and hit the bell if you feel like you are already enjoying this video and enjoying this content and don't want to miss future content. And you can also head over to my Patreon if you're into in-depth astrological readings weekly. That's where I release them. With all that being said, if the sun is moving between Aquarius season and Pisces season and making that transition, and at the time of somebody's birth, the sun is only 1 degree away from the cusp between Aquarius and Pisces, then the line between the energies of these 2 signs becomes extremely blurred because the sun is then being influenced by 2 different signs because there's no way to know exactly where the energy of one constellation ends and the other begins. There's no, like I said, there's no actual physical border that separates those 2 signs. And, it's not like crossing countries like, oh, now I'm in the US and now I'm in Canada. Once I cross this line, I'm in Canada. It doesn't work that way. Like I said, these are the cosmos. We're talking about a planetary orbit through the cosmos. There's no definite position where the sun has crossed over into the other zodiac sign. So therefore, this person may officially be an Aquarius because the sun still didn't pass over that cusp line, but because it's only 1 degree away from passing over that line, the energy is blurred and they may receive the influence of Piscean energy as well. Returning to the example from the beginning of the video, if somebody is born on the Aquarius Pisces cusp, then say for example that they are born at 6 p.m. that day, but the sun moves into Pisces at 8 p.m. And so technically, even though February 19th is the day that we consider the first day of Pisces season, the sun does not actually reach Pisces physically until 8 p.m. But somebody was born that day at 6 p.m. Technically, they're still in Aquarius. I do think that, if you are able to find your exact time, because maybe you don't know your exact time of birth. So you don't know if you were born by the time the sun was still in Aquarius or moved into Pisces, and that's okay. That means that you should still take into consideration Aquarius and Pisces traits. If you think you're a Pisces because you were born February 19th, but technically your time of birth is when the sun was still Aquarius, you should still take both into account. But if you look up your time of birth and you see that the sun was still in Aquarius, but that's the first day of Pisces season, you're technically in Aquarius. If people were to ask you what your sun sign is, I do believe in telling them that you're in Aquarius, but you were born right on the Aquarius Pisces cusp. I don't believe in stating that you are if somebody says, what's your sun sign? And I go, oh, Aquarius Pisces cusp. No, I think you do have a technical official sun sign based on where the sun was placed, but you do need to acknowledge that you were born on the cusp energetically. And again, nothing is completely black and white. And I think that saying that you are half Pisces, half Aquarian, which this is the way a lot of people think about cusp. And I think this is the way that it gets misunderstood by the masses and by just people in general. And this is not to say anything bad about, if you've been thinking this way, but again, I'm just here to try and educate you and give you a new perspective. So if you've been telling people like, I'm an Aquarius Pisces cusp or whatever cusp you were born on, and you think that you pull you're like a half and half, like you're a perfect mix of both, that's probably not the case. You probably have more influence of one sign over the other, especially depending on the rest of your chart, which we will talk about in a second. But like I said earlier, nothing is black and white in astrology. There has to be room for gray area, and saying that you are an Aquarius Pisces cusp and you're like a half and half of both zodiac signs is a little bit limiting, because again, you're just kind of restricting yourself to thinking that you're going to be like both signs. Hey everyone, future Marisa here. I just wanted to add on to the point that I was making right here when it comes to considering yourself a perfect cusp sign and referring to yourself as, an Aquarius Pisces cusp or whatever. I also wanted to add on to this by clarifying that we all contain every sign within us. And this may sound weird, but think about it this way. At the time that you were born, the reason that our natal chart is, what we look at and what we study is because those are unique positions in the cosmos that are unique to our time of birth. And not everybody has those planetary positions that you have in your birth chart. But at the time you were born, the cosmos, like say that you have, for example, Venus in Aquarius. Just because you have Venus in Aquarius doesn't mean that all of the other constellations just disappeared at the time you were born. All of us were born with the entire cosmos present. They don't disappear, which means that their energy is still present. But because you have planets in certain zodiac signs, those zodiac signs are enhanced. Those areas of life are enhanced in unique ways specific to your birth time. But that does not mean that you don't contain any of the other zodiac signs in your energetic personality. So that is another reason that it's so important to keep your mind open to the possibilities of different energies coming from different signs. And it's not, people get too attached to their own placements. Like, oh, I'm a Venus in Aquarius, but I looked at my traits and I don't match half of those traits. Well, the matter of the fact is that you're not restricted to just the general traits of that placement. That's impossible. You have so much other energy influencing that placement specifically in your birth chart because, like I said, every constellation, every planet, the whole entire universe was present at the time that you were born. It's just that certain parts of those cosmos are highlighted in your birth chart by where planets are placed, etc. Third, the planetary ruler placement is key. Not only is measuring the degrees of certain planet positions important, but it is also important to check the position of your technical sun sign's planetary ruler. Going back to our Aquarius Pisces situation, say again that person is technically born in Aquarius season before the sun officially moved over into Pisces that same day. Since they are technically still considered in Aquarius, the modern planetary ruler of Aquarius is Uranus. So you should definitely check where Uranus is placed in your chart, because say for example that Uranus, the ruler of your technical sun sign, is in Pisces in your natal chart, that means that you're probably going to feel a stronger Piscean influence, and you're gonna be confused as to how you're an Aquarius, and you're going to associate more with Piscean influence and Piscean energy and traits. But if Uranus was not in Pisces and you're technically an Aquarius, then this is going to affect you as well. You may not display as much Piscean energy as you would have thought being on the cusp. You might also see this if Uranus is in Pisces and also aspecting your sun, making a direct aspect to your sun sign. And that's another way that you're going to receive an even greater energetic influence from wherever your sun's planetary ruler is placed. Hopefully that made sense. I tried to explain it the cleanest way that I could. But just remember the overall theme of this whole video when it comes to explaining why we should take cusp into consideration is the fact that there are so many other parts of the birth chart that are influencing the way that we experience our sun sign. And I really wanted to get that point across here, that there is no definite absolute answer to anything. And it really depends a lot on where your planets are placed, what aspects are being made to your sun sign, the degrees of your sun, all of these things that people don't tend to take into consideration. A lot of people tend to take a very superficial view of the cusp ideology. And I just wanted to hopefully educate anybody, whether you agree with me or not, on the reasonings behind why cusps are something that are not so ridiculous. It's not complete nonsense, and it's completely understandable and a positive thing for us to study in astrology, because I'm also the person who endorses looking at your tropical chart and your sidereal chart, because some people relate more to one than the other. And unfortunately, our existence is not exact. We don't always know the exact time we were born. We don't always know everything perfectly. Just let go of the need for perfection and keep your mind open, because if you keep your mind open to the fact that, well, I was born very close to this season, even though I'm technically this zodiac sign, I was born only one day away from the transition into the other sign, it's not going to hurt you to just look at those signs' traits. And if you relate more to them than you thought you would, or you relate more to those than your actual sun sign, there's a reason for that. Because one, you were born on the cusp, and two, there's probably other influences in your chart that are making you feel more pulled towards that sun sign. I hope this video achieved the goal of educating you more on something that is a very controversial topic in astrology, and maybe even opened your mind to the possibilities. And ultimately, I just want you to use this to understand yourself deeper. I don't want anyone to limit their ability to study themselves through astrology because they are closed off. They are closed off towards certain possibilities, such as cusp. Anywho, just remember, if you enjoyed the video, be sure you like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss future ones. And you can head to my Patreon, where we have in-depth astrological weekly readings. And you can head over to my LaBlue Lotus Facebook community, where we talk more about using astrology and spirituality for self-transformation. But if that isn't enough, then you can head over to my Instagram at Marisa LaBlue for a more personal side of my journey, as well as additional content. And you can watch these videos until I release a new one, because they will help you even more on your journey. Until I see you next time, thank you so much for being here. Adios.